Hi, good morning, everybody. Can you people hear me?
Sandeep, we can hear you.
Okay, great. So we'll start in a few minutes. Yes. Hi, Samir.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Samir. You're in Calcutta, you're in Pune.
No, I'm in Calcutta.
Okay.
How are you?
All good, all good.
What happened? Eat properly.
Great. So I think we'll start off and people can join in whenever they come. We should respect the time of people who have joined on time. So welcome to this session. And I'd really like you all to put on your cameras so that, I can just see who all are. I'd love, I like to get some feedback. Nobody? Okay. Everybody seems to be in their sleeping dress. So guys, you have to respond. I feel like I'm talking to myself. Are you all there? There. I can see Sukanta.
Yes.
Right. So
You're
let's
audible.
start off with saying why we took up this topic. Because this is one of the topics that is very close to my heart. And in my own experience, I feel like, managing a team, managing stakeholders, managing peers has been something which has come far more naturally. Managing bosses is something that is tough. I mean, I can remember a lot of meetings wherein, you go with a, well drafted agenda, you want to present, you want the sign off. And even at the level of the group head, CHRO, I have found it so tough to get buy-ins and manage with a lot of effort. So definitely there is a room for improvement that I personally feel, and that is why I'm happy to be with you to discuss this topic today. Because in the process of talking about these, it's never too late to learn. So starting off, we're talking about being valued by your bosses. And what can we use? How can we be valued by our bosses, specific in the context of growing our career? Because as you know, HPCP is all about high potential career planning. It's about career planning and achieving career goals. So we are looking at being valued by your bosses from that lens. Okay, go ahead, Kushi. So our objectives as session is, one is saying, what does it mean to manage up? How do we influence senior stakeholders strategically? And how do we apply frameworks to simplify communication and build credibility? Like I said, if I feel this level of stress or difficulty in saying, okay, I have to present this, I have to get, buy-in, it should be simpler than that. It should be more natural. If I learn the frameworks, if I learn how to influence, then things should flow more naturally and become less stressful. Go ahead, Kushit. So I want you to add to this. I mean, some of the things is they don't listen. Nobody listens to me. I mean, the direction changes. In one meeting, we spoke of this, but in the next meeting, they said something else. Nobody understands the work I'm doing or my functional constraints or, what I'm going through. There is an inner circle and, they get seen very, very easily, whereas I find it very difficult. Right? So what is the biggest challenge that you have faced with your senior stakeholders? I know you are in this webinar because this is a topic which has spoken to you somehow and you must have faced it. So a couple of you, if you could just put it in the chat box or also please speak out. Mayur, you wanted to say
No, I
something?
just wanted to understand that it's, of course, when you say they don't listen, they keep changing direction or they don't understand my word or the inner circle. Basically, when you speak about senior stakeholders, it is like, your ideas are not taken into consideration, or of course, how Santosh said, a fixed mindset is there that this is the direction where the organization should go, and therefore the willingness to change or something different is where don't listen or they don't understand it comes from, Maneesha. So that is where I'm coming from. If the organization decides that it has to be a very fixed way of moving ahead and resistance to change or dynamism is missing, is where all the issues and the where we feel that you as senior leaders are not understood or not taken into consideration. That's the point I wanted to make.
You've covered a lot of ground, Mayur, and it is definitely being involved in decision-making process, but not actually getting your points considered or, being looked at and almost feeling like the answer is already predetermined. Whatever we say, whatever the boss thinks, they will do that only.
Correct.
I mean, I also saw somebody saying a fixed mindset, resistance to change. Santosh said that. Anybody else would like to add to this?
Maneesha, what happens is when you work with a senior colleague, and if your frequency is not matched, or more than frequency, if your value system is not matched, you may be thinking about everything on a fairly and squarely basis. He may be on a biased manager. These kind of situations, how do you navigate? That's a very difficult thing as far as myself is concerned. The immediate boss is your organization, or maybe the first person who can talk about you, create perception about you. An organization, everything happens because of perceptions.
Absolutely. Right. Which is why we very clearly want to influence and be valued by our managers, because our manager needs to be the person who champions us. Until unless you have a manager who is championing you, it becomes very difficult for you to grow in an organization. So you've made a very, very valid point here. And like I said, I will still get a knot in my stomach if I were to, make a big presentation to the board or, promoters, because I consider that it's a difficulty. What do you feel when you go for in key interactions? You go to a meeting where you're making a decision where you want an approval, or you're talking about your performance and you want to present a viewpoint of, why it is the way it is, or, how good you think you have done, or whether it's not done well enough. So how do you feel about these interactions? Feeling level.
Such interactions are normally valued at many a times at face values. But one perception is created. If that perception is created without changing that perception, even if you contribute positively, it'll not be recognized or it'll be overlooked. That happens in most of the times.
So that's the description. In the question, I'm focusing on what is your feeling. Do you feel, happy I've got this opportunity? Do you feel nervous? Do you feel stressed? Do you feel, there could be many reactions to having, everybody goes to meetings, everybody makes presentations, everybody wants approvals, whatever. Everybody goes for an appraisal. What is the feeling I have?
Completely professional film. There is nothing to worry about.
Okay.
You will put up your case for the forum to judge.
Okay. That's great. Mayur, what about you?
Maneesha, at the senior level, when you are a part of the engagement, okay, the feeling of getting the opportunity is not there because you all assume that your voice will be heard, and when it's a decision making, your decision or your point of view will be considered. So of course there is the only thing that I feel when we attend such senior management meetings and when it's a part of decision making is your ideas should be heard, and you feel a little, after the meeting when the decision is taken and when you feel that your ideas are not considered is where you feel start introspecting yourself, whether I been not aligned with the organizational goals. Am I not aligned with the decision making of the organization, or did we say something which was not in line with the management wanted? So that is the perception that personally I get as a part of this decision making meeting.
Right. Okay. Let's see how we can find some ways in which to handle it. Let's discuss some ways today. Go ahead, Khushi. So some of the traditional advice, this is here, but I'm sure you can count many. I mean, what do we get told first, right? If you are visible, be visible, speak out in a meeting, it should be there when your boss notices you. A lot of other ways of being visible. Also your skip managers or your CEO, if they don't see you, if they know of you, then how are they going to know what good work you have done? Adapting your style to the style of the manager or the, just becoming like them. So that in any organization, you'll see many people who become what their bosses are. They just mirror that behavior and that works for them to some extent. But being visible is equal to being heard question. You may speak a lot, but are you getting heard, like Mayura said? You adapt to the style, which means you become a little bit of a copy. But do you get trust because of that? You may be useful, but does it mean that the person sees a lot of potential in you? Delivering results. Now, you may be delivering results in your current role and you may be valued for that. But does that create a strategic credibility so that your manager or your boss, your senior stakeholders can say, oh, this person is built for good things and, they need to be promoted, they need to be given higher position, they need to be given a certain project. Is it building credibility? And sometimes the first is not equal to the second. You deliver results and you become good at that. You are valued for your role, but you don't get growth because you're very valuable here, but he doesn't have strategic capability. So similarly, he's a good follower, but not a leader. The trust is not there, or you're being seen, but not really heard because nobody sees value in what you're saying. And there could be many such things which happen that, you get traditional advice, do well, be diligent, work hard, and somebody will notice. One thing that is not on this slide, which I want to bring up to you, is it's also the perspective that we bring to this topic. It's a feeling that if I do good work, and if I'm doing everything right, I understand the strategy, I am doing a good job, I understand the ground realities, I am bringing relevant, information, data, insight, etc. It's the job of others to actually value what I bring. And in reality, that's not the way it works. You may have great inputs, but I keep saying this, if a diamond in the rough is not something that realize, and maybe people will throw it away as glass unless it shines. So there is an enough amount of time to be spent saying, okay, this is what I bring to the table. How do I actually influence others? And most of us who may think that this is difficult have problems with having that influencing. Some people have natural ability and they'll shine. But for others, it is something that you have to do consciously, saying, okay, if I want this to happen, then I need to do this, which is beyond the diligence, the hard work, and the effectiveness, and the insight, and all of that. So we need to be very clear that we need to also build our skills as a leader. Eventually, you want to be a CEO or something, you will also be working with a lot of external stakeholders. Now, nobody is beholden to take, notice of you, do things the way you want or you think is right. You have to sell, you have to get people on your side, you have to influence. And that's a very key leadership skill. So it needs to be built here with our external stakeholders first. Let's go ahead, Khushi. So the first thing we are talking about is the power proximity map. Okay. The power proximity map is basically telling us that if I look at my org structure, right? You have a CEO, then you have the senior vice presidents, and then there are the vice presidents, and the CXOs. Then the CXOs have department. They are straight lines. One person reports to one. I mean, the worst confusion that can happen is some matrix reporting can happen. That the regional HR head is reporting into the HR head or the business HR head, but also reports into the regional manager. A little bit of functional matrix can happen, but that's about it. Most of our, the organizational structure are very, very clear and straight line drawn. However, the power matrix does not always follow the organizational structure, does not follow the straight lines. Power structure is more like a tree. It goes where it goes. And sometimes you will have people valuable for different reasons. People have the trustworthiness for different reasons. So if you look at this particular diagram, if you look at a power proximity map, there will be people with higher level of decision making, which is the circle size. Then there will be the direction. Who has influence over whom? So obviously the senior most person, the largest circle, has influence over a lot of people. But there is the reverse which also happens. Then there is the line direction, the line width, and it goes in every direction. I'm just off the top of my head. It's not a definitive list of things. But power proximity could be because of longevity. There will be in organizations people who work there for a long time. They may not be the senior most people, but they have the ear. Sometimes your senior most people, whether it's a CEO or a promoter or will want to have direct line to some of the very junior people. Let's say manufacturing, this happens a lot. People or in the market, wherein those people who maybe they have worked with them in some past or whatever, they know these people and they will take direct feedback from them because they don't like to rely on single source hierarchical feedback, right? Also, some people will directly, a CEO will be very close to the CFO. They will always talk to the CFO about it. Doesn't matter that it's the CFO's domain or not. It could be a CEO and a CHRO. It could be, the head of sales. It could be so many people. I mean, it could be a marketing head. It could be the, sales head of a particular vertical who speaks directly to the marketing head and therefore has greater influence. So a lot of influence thing happens. The ability to recognize this, not to say this is wrong. Why did my project get with so-and-so or whatever? The ability to understand who has the power, who has the influence. And when you can understand, maybe even map it, then you know that if I have a project which is going to influence, which is going to touch upon the quality head's job, or which the CFO, cost-wise, he'll come into the picture, or so-and-so will come into the picture, you will want to actually look at that and say, I'm not going to only talk to my CEO or the promoter or to the head of the organization or to my boss. I will need to influence all these people so that what I want happens. So really influences your stakeholder. Trust and access matter more than title. That is a clear truth in every organization. Do you all agree with that?
Maneesha, I have one question on the influencing factor, if I can ask.
Can I just take the question after we finish
Yes,
the
please.
2 slides and then you can bring in the...
Sure, no problem.
For now, I hope this speaks to everybody. Anybody feels that this is not true, then you can tell me that.
Sure.
Okay, bye everybody. Please put it in the chat box. Yes. Okay. Let's go ahead, Khushi. So this is just an example, and I want you to pitch in with your example, at least 1 or 2 people. Like, let's say Reena is an AVP in pharma operations. She's designed a proposal for automating a part of the quality control process. She wants to put it to the CEO during an operational review meeting, and the CEO will be happy with her initiative, and it's a great value add to the organization. However, she presents and she gets a good feedback, but doesn't happen. And then later she finds out the head of quality did not agree with her, and therefore it was just it went into a little bit of a conflict zone. Nobody actually picked it up. Now the way to do it would have been that understanding that the head of quality has a stake in this decision, taking their inputs, talking to them, convincing them to be on your, then going to the CEO and then making the pitch. So that would have been the right way of doing it. Now I want one of you to share your experience where you feel that this kind of a play has happened. Samir, you want to take a stab at it?
Should I say something?
Yeah, please.
So in corporate culture, it's every match is a fixed match. Okay. In the real cricket, we say match fixing is something wrong. In corporate culture, match fixing is the foundation. So unless, the match fixing is the nice word for match fixing is the buy-in. So buy-in is nothing but a match fixing. So let's say the decision needs to be driven, and there are 4 stakeholders. Unless you go and fix the match with them, that I scratch yours, you scratch mine, and that this is the foundation in which the corporate culture works. Whether you like or don't like, but this is the way it works. So unless the matching is done, unless the decision is taken on the water cooler or on the cafe joint, decisions don't move forward. If someone is thinking that God will come and help you in the meetings, it never ever happens in corporate world. So don't believe the religious things that I'll make efforts and make the presentation and people will clap for me. Never ever happens in corporate world. Unless I know who are going to be there, the attendees in the meeting, unless I fix a match with them, and they will agree with only provided I have something in return to give to them.
Okay. So Prasad, I completely agree with what you said. Okay. I wholly agree with what you said, but I don't think the approach you are taking to it will work because, so corporate life is not a game of cricket. Okay. In a game of cricket, in a constructed way, you go on to the field, you play in a certain set of rules, and there you must follow those rules, and the winning and losing is decided on the basis of that. In a corporate life, that's not true at all. There are no rules to the game as such, which are very, very clearly defined. That if you bring it up to so and so or in such and such meeting, then only during that period of time it should be considered. Anything outside of that is, So I would, Prasad, to look at your understanding is very, very clear. I would remove the negativity from it. I would not call it match fixing. I would not call it that, people are creating cliques and people have influence. It is a way of life. It is a required skill. And the sooner we say, okay, this is a skill that I also know probably, and maybe inherently I may have less of it, but can I build something on it? Then, my strength will be the ideas that I bring, but I have to have at least a manageable level of interpersonal and influencing skills to get my work done. Else, I may feel like it's not fair, but it is not going to help. I mean, how does, feeling that I've been unfairly treated is not reality. And organizations are not, bound by strict hierarchies and rules. So therefore, it's okay. It's kosher. It's the people who are skilled at interpersonal skills who can influence will get decisions favorably made towards that. It is a collection of people who are working with each other. So I would just want you to remove the negativity from that and see it as something desirable, because even leadership is all about influencing people inside, outside, customers, stakeholders, government, everything. So, and then nobody is going to say, okay, you made a good point, so you should get success. It doesn't work that way, right? So sooner we acknowledge it, take it positively, build on our skills, the better we'll do. So I would just see it as match fixing. I would want you to see it as a different game altogether. Does that work for you, Prasad?
I would say match fixing we should not call negative, because this is life. Match fixing is the reality of the life. Whatever flowery word we can identify and put it, but this is the life. One who accepts this in early stage of career helps him in building his career successfully.
Yeah. So I'll still leave this with you,
Maneesha,
Prasad. Let's use a different analogy, because at the moment you start fixing, you feel negative, then it is not something that you desire for yourself. You just have to manage something bad. Ideally, we should go with a positive mindset, but I take your point and I'll leave this with you.
Maneesha, I would like to just add here. Samir, go ahead. Samir, you have to say something.
I think, you know, I completely agree with what is stated on this slide, because I think I've seen people in my I work very closely with the promoter. So I know people who want to directly reach out to me or the promoter to, you know, peer ideas, but then, you know, I kind of route them through their reporting managers and the hierarchy, just to respect that. And that helps them to get their buy-in. And, you know, even if their ideas have, but then if they go through the legitimate way, I think then definitely the chances are very high that, you know, if it is a feasible idea, then it will get implemented. So that is what I wanted to share.
Right.
Yeah, so
Mayur, you
what
were
I would
saying
like,
something. And Sandeep.
you go ahead, please.
Mayur, you were saying something?
Yes, Maneesha. So my point was on that influencing bit. So as you mentioned that the one who is who is an influencer, the majority factor is a tenure. So is that always right for every bit, that if you have more tenure in the organization, of course you are one of the influencing factors in every meeting, every organization? Is it a given, or is it just an assumption that it might be one of the factors and not necessarily holds good for every organization, or every way in which the meetings? Because it is not a fair game. That means that only if you're tenured you will be heard, or you will be considered every time, and if you're, then probably you won't be heard. So I just wanted your.
So, Mayur, I would very simply put it, and then Sandeep can probably take it on, is that a person who's been in the organization and has done well, in many organizations, they hold a little bit of value. They have existing relationships, they have background, they have cultural alignment, so that works, right? But but it's not an absolute thing. Many people in the company with 15, 20 years will be completely ignored. The fact of the matter is, why did people come in senior positions? Because obviously if these everybody was that good, they would have taken these roles. So something new was required, right?
Yes.
So now the thing that we look at is, when you come as a new person, as an expert, and sometimes you are expected to bring change. But having said, organization brings you for change, but they are resistant to change in house. They're a little afraid of what you may create some havoc, you may change things as they were. So now that is a change management thing, a very, very heavy influencing game. So how do we make the people who are older in the organization comfortable with the idea? How do we make sure that their concerns are taken care? How do we therefore they are not they're not going to stand up and say, no, this is not going to work, this will not. So there would be, if you acknowledge it, then address it. I would put it as that.
Then resistance to change of these people, the resistance to change is a big factor with people, because they feel that the way the things have been happening in the organization from years is the right way. And then resistance to change is something, there is a mindset game. It's very difficult to break, Maneesha. So, and I've faced this in my organization, so I need to understand how to go about it.
That's a topic for one more webinar. Do that. How to manage change management. It's a really okay.
Yeah. So I'll just add to this. I'll tell you, every organization has its DNA, every organization has its culture, and every individual has his own DNA and thinking process. Okay. Now, hence he's also a human being, right?
Correct.
He's also a human being, and you're also a human being.
Correct.
So, and then there's an organization and organization dynamics. Okay, I'll just give an example. In the morning, I was speaking to, because we guide young people also. There's another vertical of ours at the job. This gentleman, in 6 years, has changed 6 jobs. Okay, and then I asked him some few questions as to, why don't you really understand and put reasons for you changing each job? People try and give reasons. So I said, you have to really reflect on this for 6-8 hours, think through, and then give me reasons. Don't give impulsive answer. So he next day again came back to me within half an hour professional answer. I said, I'm not happy. Please put in 6-8 hours and understand. So he put in maybe 2-3 hours, and most of the times he was saying my relationship with my boss was not good. Now, if it is happening 6 times, there's a trend, right?
Yeah, there's a trend.
And each boss is a human being, as I said. So, and each individual, each one of us is different. If we have to evolve as leaders and leaders who will build cultures, what each one of us need to understand is that, see, if you have to build culture, we are building culture with human minds and people, right? So, and there are people who think in different manner, different ways. And around that, you have to influence people, whether it is shareholders, whether it is promoters, whether it is my boss, whether it is my juniors. So if we as individuals and professionals start taking helicopter view and 30,000 feet view above as to why a particular individual is behaving in a certain way, in a better control. Otherwise, we get stressed if we are not able to manage our emotions properly. As leaders, if you have to really evolve. And in future, I'm telling you, as we are evolving, leadership is all about, most of us are capable. Almost all of us are capable. But how do you manage people and how do you handle people and influence people is the crux of leadership. And managing your own boss and senior stakeholders is ultimately very, very important for you to influence the decision and influence the organization in a certain way. It is very easy to say, "Mera promoter hai." But the fact is that he is that way, right? You can't do anything about it. I can't change my parents. Can I change my parents? Impossible, right?
Yes. No.
I think it's very, very important that we start taking helicopter views. And sooner you learn to take helicopter views, then you. And these habits are deeply ingrained. They don't change 6 months, 2 years. It takes ages for you to change these habits.
Yeah.
Just to add. Yeah.
So today we will talk about two framing techniques because, inherently thinking and creating, our behavior is to be a long haul. So sometimes, some models and framing techniques helps you to say, okay, let us think this way. So let's look at two framing techniques. Go ahead, Kushi. So one is, strategic dissent. Now, the thing is, if you are going to agree with everything, a lot of times you can't be seen as value adding because all you're saying is yes to everything. So where is your value add? The smarter way a lot of people agree is saying yes, and I think it's good X will, add one more reason or two more reasons. But end of the day, if it is not genuine and if it is just your diplomatic way of, staying on the right side, it does take away from your sheen because you are a yes person. You don't really add any value to the conversation. But dissent can be problematic. I mean, people say that they would want dissent. People want you to give their views, but also sometimes your dissent can just create a problem. That is acceptable. There is little more is not acceptable. Little more is troublesome. The person they say ye to hamesha nahi bolega. So you can see that the other person is expecting that you are now going to create some problems. So how do we create dissent, strategic dissent, which is to say dissent, but in a way that is useful and noble, and it shines better on you. So we're talking about three steps. It's called 3Ps. Priorities linked to their goals, to stakeholders, your senior goals. Potential risk, highlight what's at stake. If we don't do this, what could happen? And then offer a smarter but an aligned path. It's no use just saying, no, this will not work. I don't agree with this. Because then, and there is no way forward from there. And then most likely what's going to happen is saying, no, you try, this will do it. We'll do some kind of a, sample, or we will do a test and let's see it will work or make it happen. That's your job, right? If you just dissent, but this will help us to pivot to a point where we can see some common ground. So let's look at an example and then please think about sharing something that you may want to be framed in this manner. Go ahead, Kushi. So this is in sales, okay? A very simple thing, but stay with me, right? So there's a pricing strategy for Q3, and in a senior leadership meeting, the division head said, this won't work in cities, we are going to lose volume. He's angry and he pushed back. And then the CMO said, no, this is, we need to do this. And was, his dissent was dropped and left a bad feeling with everybody. Now, that would be the wrong way of doing things. What is the right way? Jay, one-on-one meeting with the CMO the following day, he used the 3P framing, and this is the 3P framing. See, what is the priority? I know expanding tier 2 cities is a key strategic push. Find the priority. Second is our current price point is 20% above local brand leaders. We may see resistance. So bringing out the point of potential risk, and then pivot to saying, could we test a mid-tier pack price in 3 districts before the full rollout? Gives you some breather, gives you some data to go ahead and influence. The CMO appreciated the framing to a market experiment, right? So now, how do we structure it? In what? So first of all, do you want to stand up in the open meeting and start a dissent with somebody who's a senior stakeholder? Likely to not go well. Sometimes you may have to do it, but likely, even there, maybe framing is important. But if you can, what is your goal? Your goal is that you want to make sure that you do not lose volumes and that problem doesn't occur. Then framing it in the 3P way would be good, right? So does anybody want to take a stab at, framing some problem from your own work life into this format?
Fantastic. I'm really finding it useful.
So Prasad, give me an example of how you would use it.
Unfortunately, I was not using it, but today onwards I'll start using it. I'll tell you how. The idea of prioritizing and linking it to the goal, because ultimately the one who's setting up the ambitious target or ambitious plan is also linked to a ultimate goal. So if the dissent is aligned with the goal and the value structure or the value system that the organization has, I think the acceptance to the, I'll not say dissent, but alternative views will always be higher.
Absolutely. Sanjeev, you want to say something?
No, Maneesha, you go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, please. Let's go ahead. Khushi? See, this is what I wanted you to do. Think of a disagreement that you have stayed silent on or which didn't go well. How would you frame it at 3P? If any of you can think of something and you don't immediately are able to answer, just put it in the chat box so we can use it as an example for each other. Learning from each other is important, right? Okay, let's go ahead, Khushi. So, the earlier thing was about dissent. Now we're looking at a framework for how do you want to put up something so that you can get approval for it. And we are saying only 4 steps here, okay? We must have options, real relevant choices. So it should not be one thing. I mean, we've talked about the fact that, the organization or the manager has only one idea in mind or they have already finalized their idea. We don't need to do that. We may need to have 1 or 2 options. Then we talk about the risks, what could go wrong. What are the trade-offs for each of these ideas? And then make a clear recommendation for one thing. The ask should be very clear. I mean, why are you presenting this? Why is it coming up? It should be very clearly represented. Okay, let's go ahead. So let's take example of Meena. In a BFSI company, she wanted to recommend a customer engagement platform, right? She prepared a detailed presentation, explained the features of several tools, screenshots, workflow diagrams. But in the meeting with senior leaders, nobody had thought about, what does the customer engagement platform mean? Parameters are required. What should the decision be based on? So there was all kinds of discussion. Somebody talked about cost, somebody talked about features, somebody got stuck with a small point of that. And then they said, okay, great presentation. Thank you so much. And let's think about it. And that is it. It was over. Because it wasn't structured in a manner, people could actually reach a decision. And you have to guide people to making a decision. That is the whole point of this format. So if we say options, choose between platform A, platform B, and platform C, okay, which has a cost factor, AI-enabled, robust but expensive. Risks. Very long can mean we risk losing early mover advantage for cross-sell programs. Trade-offs can be platform A is cheaper but lacks analytics. Platform B is more strategic but needs integration. So you've given options, you've given the pros and cons and what are the risks. Then you recommend that I suggest we go for platform B in 2 high value regions this quarter and evaluate what is the activation rates, right? Now, if you put it with that thought in mind, saying, okay, I am giving you these options, I am telling you the things that you need to focus on. So you're getting everybody's mind into that area, saying, okay, cost bhi hai, AI enablement bhi hai, robustness hai, all those factors need to be considered. Right, you are giving them what factors to assemble them. Then you are telling them, okay, this is what happens in these choices. And then you're saying, I think this is what we should do. You're also giving the organization a choice to say, let's do a pilot so that it's not a do or die, invest a lot of money and then face failure if it doesn't work. Now, if you frame it in such a manner, then it's to be more successful. Guys, feedback. Will this model work for you? Do you use it currently? I'm sure in some shape or form you're using it.
Maybe we can add benchmarking to the options. So when we say options ABC, if it is benchmarked with the current situation, the acceptance level is higher.
Yeah. So in terms of, being able to present what are the, comparative features, we can also use benchmarking. And we can also benchmark it to your current system. If there is an existing system, we say, okay, current system does this. This is what it will give us. Very true. Anybody else? Any thoughts? Will you use this model? At least tell me that. It's called ORTR. It's not very complicated. Prasad, you saying something?
Yes, definitely. This framework helps.
Okay. Khushi, let's move on.
Maneesha, I would like to just add here.
Yeah, please.
So one is when Meena is presenting this, for example, when she's presenting this, I think if she has done some homework around maybe customers who are using and who have transitioned from one platform to this platform, what their experience, if she can incorporate that, if she can bring an insight that she has spoken to some IT tech people and give their perspective also as to this is what is happening currently, this is where it can move likely. I mean, if one or two these kind of areas also if she thinks and puts it across, it's also talks about her potential and leadership capability.
Absolutely.
Maneesha, ma'am, only one point from
Sure.
Generally, when it comes to my presentation to the management on the options and the recommendations, it speaks a language of time, cost, and quality. Because these are three parameters which everybody in the corporate life understand. So everything has to be pegged with the budget, and budget is in form of the time and cost, and how the quality or the reputation of the organization is going to get benefited or would be hampered. So whatever we see, the options, risks, trade-offs, if they are divert or analyze on the parameters of time and quality, it is more effective.
Exactly. So if you're clear about the parameters for a particular project or recommendation and you put it out there, then your discussion is around those parameters and not all over the place. And we may think that it is commonsensical. Most of us are, have a lot of experience and we think, ha, ye to karna hi chahiye. But we don't. When we build our presentations, we're so, sometimes imbued by the beauty of our own solution. We say, let's present this solution and everybody will, kind of fall. And, we just perceive that, I've done such a great job that, how can people not go with this? But the fact is that we have to win over people and recommendations have to be made and not everybody going to think alike. So we have to help them reach their decision, right? Let's go ahead, Khushi. We're just going to take a minute to just talk about HPCP, our platform. And, So, Khushi, can you go ahead with the presentation? And, any questions you have about this, we can take it at the end of our presentation. Go ahead, Khushi. Are you having trouble with the video? Then we can put it at the end also. Okay. I think the voiceover is a problem. Can you just stop the presentation and maybe I can just speak off, just stop the presentation. So basically, guys, HPCP is high potential career planning. We help people to build careers, and we mostly work for middle to senior level people. We have, programs which work with individuals. We provide, CXO level coaches and mentors. We have a structured program, and whether it's career transition, whether it is growth in the same organization, or whether it is just leadership growth, in each of these areas, our programs are very useful. They're usually a fixed number of sessions program. So we have a 16 session program. We also have a 6 session program. We have a hybrid program where we help you actively to achieve your goal. So many such programs we have, and we would customize our programs to your individual needs. We also do corporate programs, which we did for the FMCG sales people last year, and we did sales to CEO. So all sales professional, how good can they get to CEO positions? Sandeep and I are the co-founders of this, initiative, and we would really be happy to help you in case you needed any help or support in this area. Okay.
Maneesha, what I would say is, see, in my 25 years of executive search career, what I've realized is almost everybody is capable. Almost everybody is capable. I have seen people growing from management training to CEO or business heads. What makes difference is think and how they implement and act. Capability never is an issue. It is all about how you think, how you manage your emotions, and how do you drive execution. I think core is that. So with that as a core, then we thought, how can we really enable people to do better in life, be happy, and be successful? So that's the ethos, background about this program as to why we have thought of this. Yeah. Maneesha.
So in today's topic, the fourth and the last point that I want to make is being seen as strategic. Now, strategic is a very important word, but most of us, will struggle to say what is our strategic work. How do we present ourselves as strategic? How do I, getting work done is not strategic, it is tactical. So what is strategy? All of that, very confusing. So I've selected, some of the areas that would help you to see how you show yourself as a strategic leader. So one is move from executor to sense maker advisor. You are the best person to execute projects is not being strategic. Of course, you need that. And you would have skill, that's done through our initial years in the middle management. We kind of become experts at being able to execute. From there, we have to move to saying, what is the sense of this project? How do we become an advisor to our senior leadership about the various projects? Apart from executing will always be there. But mostly your teams will take over the execution. How do you help them, right? Then the second is speaking the language of priorities, not tasks. What is the strategy of the organization? What are the goals of the organization? Therefore, what are the priorities? And not talking about, we have to get this done. We have to get this done. Because anybody who about tasks in the short term, it's fine. Those tasks, if everybody agrees, you're doing it. But at least you're not being perceived as strategic because your language is always about projects and tasks. One opportunity that each one of us has is that we do a weekly review, we do a monthly review, make presentations to the management committee, we go and make presentations to the board. We make a lot of presentations and updates, right? Now, what do you present in the updates? Lots of times we say, okay, this was my goal. I was supposed to do these kind of numbers. I did these kind of numbers. This is where we are on this project. This is what happens. After that, beyond the numbers, what is the effectiveness? What is the impact? What is the insight? That part we miss out. A lot of times before every presentation, the 2-3 day frenzy of, getting the data, putting it together, putting it into all of that we do, then we say, okay, here is it. Finally, we've done it. Here is the update. The data is all there. And we don't have insights. We don't say which customer segment was working, which was not working, what project was successful, what was not successful, and why. So we say we presenting this data to you, everybody else then starts asking you questions about it. Sometimes you're able to answer, sometimes you're not able to answer because you didn't think of it. The idea is, yes, updates, but bring out the actual understanding of the subject on those updates. Ask the questions, bring in solutions, give insights. The third one is connecting the dots across theme, markets, and data. I am from this function and I have a blinkered vision only of that function. So whenever I go and talk about something, it's all about my function. So I am from finance. I'll always talk about the cost. I'll always talk about the balance sheet. I'll always talk about the, project overruns or whatever. But I'll not talk about the effectiveness. I'll not talk about the future impact. I'll not talk about, anything about effectiveness or people strategy or anything. That is not a senior leadership trait. A person who needs to be strategic needs to connect the dots, needs to be able to understand from other functions, bring it all together, and then present their function as looking at everything together. Okay. And what are the long-term implications? The last one. Everything we are doing, something is good today. What is the impact tomorrow is what we need to look. So if we put we use these 5 pegs, we are likely to come across as more strategic. Now, the question I'll ask you, each one of you is, do you use any of this? If so, which one? Samir, I think you use many of these. I know your role demands you to. Which ones are your favorite of these?
I think I have to use kind of all in my current role. I think so.
Yeah.
We can choose, but yeah, I think I use all of those.
And it's effective for you? Does it give you good results?
It does. It does. I think, what I see is, usually leaders in the function, they are used to working in silos. So I think you have to show the picture and you have to tell them why we're doing what we're doing or what we want to do. So once they understand why, and you have to show them the big picture, and then, they start aligning with the organizational interests, and then things start falling in place. So I think, yeah, definitely it has worked with me and I have to use it every day.
Absolutely. Mayur, what's your experience?
Maneesha, I believe all of this is definitely used at a management level, but the most important thing is show them the bigger picture. At the management level, I believe we should always look at 10, 15 years down the line. So not a short-term vision, but when we talk to the senior leadership, it's always about this is the implication right now, but this is the long-term vision. So I believe zoom out, show and understand long-term implications is amongst all these 5 parameters. This holds the key, because when organizations look at you, they want you to plan, of course, for now, but they want you to look at the long-term vision and plan accordingly. So that for me is very important.
And are you able to do that effectively?
Yes, Maneesha. Since I'm into services industry, okay, so it's not a product-based industry. So for us, and I'm into the global market. So me, it's very important to visualize the pros and cons of the markets globally and show the management that this is what is the trend, but this is what we are looking at 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the line. This is how it will evolve. So I have been able to do it very successfully.
Great. Sukanta?
Yeah, hi. Yes, out of all those slides which I have seen, I think seen as strategic and all these cons which you have mentioned over here is absolutely dot on. As a leader, what you have to do is that you have to walk the talk, which talks about first point, sense and I mean, you have to tell your team that how things are being done, and you have to sense them through that. I mean, you have to be an example of it first, and then tell them that, boss, this is how you have to do it. So that is priority number one. And strategically, you will have to make it your priorities. I mean, this is all which we are doing it from. I mean, as a leadership team in any organization, this is what we are doing across. And I believe all these points are really, I mean, impacting in all our daily lives of all the leadership teams over here. So for me, the point one and showing the big picture and how you wanted to take it forward to the organization goal. It all depends on the organization vision also. So if your vision is that, okay, this year my vision is that I wanted to go my top line from here to here. So to get the top line from here to this point to another point, which are our strategic decisions which you have to make. You have to introduce new products. You have to introduce new markets. You will have to make your product gross margins with better blending, or maybe your product innovations. So all these things are there. So now every team has to deliver their point of views onto this and start doing the walk the talk kind of method. I mean, this is how we have initiated these things and how we have moved at those things. And yes, so that's what I wanted to say. I mean, these 5 points are really necessary for every manager or a leader who has a team to focus on.
I'll just add, Maneesha.
And you should not only do this, but you should be seen to be doing it. Yeah.
No,
Please.
in your team there are, you have to do it, but at least you will have to, wherever your team faces any problems, you have to come forward and tell them that this is how you have to do it. I'll give you an example. See, I'm into the marketing functions. I do look into both your strategic, offline, online, and everything. When you start doing a digital marketing campaign, many times your digital campaign manager comes to you saying that, boss, this is how our reach should be, this is how our cost to connect should be and all, but it's not happening. So the point over here, I wanted to make it that if we have taken a decision that I wanted to reach, with this kind of budget, I wanted to reach so many of people over here. So now you will have to tell, if the team is facing your problem, then you'll have to really understand the data points where you are facing the problem. And then maybe your targeting is not right. Maybe your customer segmentation is not right. Maybe your content is not great. Then you'll have to analyze and tell them that, boss, you have to do this thing, because every target audience has a different understanding of different content. Right. You can't say, give the same content to a 50 plus years. You can't give the same content to a 30 plus year, or you can't give the same content to a 20 plus year kind of customer. So every content has to be depending on their understanding of their buying patterns. So you will have to tell your team. So that's the, you have to walk the talk. So whatever you are saying, you will have to give them an example.
So Sukanta,
that this is how you have to do it.
Expressed right now, right? What you expressed right now, how you manage your team, now you have to take the same skill sets and also use it to engage with your key stakeholders. That's how you make your, the topic of our thing is more influencing bosses today. So you should take this, exact the same approach that you said in your team management. You have to take it to your stakeholders also, and in that direction. Sandeep, you were saying something.
Yeah, so I think what is important for us to understand is each one of us on this particular skill will be at a certain level. Not currently, each one of us will be at a certain. Now, how do I sharpen this skill and enhance it is the more important thing. Now, this can be done in multiple ways. In your own example, there are 5 people, 5 direct reports, and you will see, you will rate them differently on this piece, right? Now, if you start analyzing, why are you rating a certain person high on a strategic thinking versus why are you rating your other person low, and reflect on, if just one is when you're rating your own team, why are you rating in a particular fashion, and reflect on that. Second, you'll have also peers who will be at different levels, who are of strategic thinking high or low. So that also, if you can again reflect and say, why am I rating certain person high and why am I rating certain person low, and get insight that. Because self-learning as leadership, see, one is how do you raise your bar for your own self and strategic thinking. If you start reflecting on people around you and saying that if I have to raise my bar, how do I raise my bar on this piece? I think it's because this is one of the most critical things for any leader to grow, and one has to be continuously improving on it. And one can learn from juniors, from seniors, from people, your friends also. But I think it's very, very important for all of us.
Yeah. Let's go ahead. So this one, everybody who's here, can you rate yourself on these sentences? It just help you to see whether you're coming across as strategic or not at this point of time. Can you put this in the chat box? Yes, guys. You see yourself at 3.5, 4, 4.5. Samir, you're doing really well on this, huh?
I think so.
Yeah. Santosh, you are finding this a problem, right? Yeah. It's a struggle sometimes, yes. So everybody seems to be very much on the take. I mean, except Santosh, who's having a little bit of a problem on this. And sometimes it can be also cultural. If the culture is not really supportive, in that case, effort required is a whole lot more. So, but being aware that, this is where I need to improve or, make it happen is a good start to discuss. Let's go ahead, Khushi. Another thing about strategic perception ladder that I wanted to introduce to you. You can be a doer, you can be an expert, you can be an advisor, you can be a connector, or you can be an influencer. Where do you think you are at this point of time?
Maneesha, frankly,
Hmm.
frankly, this is better there. And I come from a supply chain domain. See, my take is that you play different role in different situations. I mean, it's very difficult to say that which
Sure.
stage am I at today. Uh, in a different situation, in a different meeting, in a different context, I may be playing a role of doer, I may be playing a role of expert, I may be playing a role of advisor, connector, or influencer. So it would depend on where I am, what is the role expected out of me, and maybe out of apart from all these five, maybe I'm just a I'm not even any one of them. I'm just a listener. I'm just made aware that all this is happening, right? And
So,
I've
you've given me an idea that I would like to clarify. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So maybe it does not impact me directly, but it impacts me. So for example, I take care of logistics, right? Now there is a strategic change in the way sales is functioning. It does not impact me directly, but yes, it does impact my KPIs. It does impact what is So company has decided to go from a SS model to a rural direct model. Right. Overall, it does impact the cost that I would be incurring on my logistics, which is probably, arguably, one of the most important KPI that I have to run with in the organization. And how do I react at that point of time? Should I play a role of doer, expert, advisor, connector? This is something which I have to decide at that point of time. So it becomes very, so on the face of it, it looks very simple that where do I stand? But from the situation to situation, it will differ. And sometimes I would have to play none of these and play a very different role.
So let me say one thing. If possible, in every situation in my organization, I want to be an influencer. Trusted voice shapes senior decisions. I want to be the decision maker, right? I would want that goal to be there. And that is where, because I'm also aiming towards senior leadership positions. So I want to be the trusted voice. I want to shape senior decisions. That's where I want to be. Some of these are also cumulative. So when you are an influencer, doesn't mean you're not a connector, advisor, expert, or doer. In fact, you're probably doing those well enough to reach the influencer position. So it's a gradual climb up. It's not like you can be an influencer and be terrible at being a connector or, awful advisor. It's likely to be that you have done these things well enough to reach that level. So you work towards that level, and you're right. In certain roles, you may not want to be influencer. It depends upon, what domain, what project, are you doing this, like that. Ideally, wherever you are engaged, you want to be an influencer. You want people to perceive that you should be consulted for the decision making. And like we looked at the power proximity principle, if you are doing really well in your organization, you will be an influencer for decisions which don't even do with you. Because the senior people will consult you saying, Weber, what do you think about this? What are your views on this? Can we just catch up on this for 5 minutes? Because, your boss also needs advisors who may not, not the person who's directly impacted, whose project it is, but also another person who may be able to, who he or she trusts, right? So we do want to build towards being an influencer. That is the point.
See, Maneesha, and again, I'm for everyone else, I'm just going a little one-on-one here. See, my always had been in my career, at least, is that I get played with office politics very easily. Right. So I've been always, from last 4-5 years, I've been in the role of head of department. Just being in the role of head of department, it becomes very for everyone comes for me for all this influence, because I've been part of the management. Everyone wants to align me before they go and present it to the CEOs of the company, right? So I've been playing that role, but what is happening is that till the time the office politics. So as you rightly said, the power grows like a tree, and it may have several branches. Right. Now, you as a HOD, you also have to understand that sometimes people will reject your idea just because it is coming from you. No matter, the idea may have a lot of gravity, and the idea may be real, but they'll just reject it because it came from you.
Possible, yeah.
And that is what has been happening with me and my team quite often. I'll not say always. We've been able to do a lot of implement a lot of ideas, but it does happen quite often. And that is where you get stuck, and that is where you feel really bad that you've been thinking about the company, you have a long-term perspective, you have all the things that we talked about till now, but somebody shot it down just because it came from you.
Right. Sandeep, you want to help Weber with some insights? It's a situation which is exactly what we are trying to address at this point.
So Weber, I think the fact that you are realizing that this what happens with you needs thinking on the approach. Why is it happening, and how do I ensure that it doesn't happen? Like, for example, if there's a resistance, right? Clearly there's a resistance on your ideas and on your thoughts. Now, if that is happening, it is not going to you to overcome maybe immediately in the next meeting and next presentation. But if there are certain stakeholders during these meetings who are acting as a block, so to say, are not agreeing with you, I think it is very, very important for you to build first and foremost a personal rapport with the stakeholders who are going to be in such kind of meetings and influencers in the organization. So understanding organizational dynamics and building a very good rapport with all these people is one thing, is very important. The thing is also, it's also important for you to introspect and reflect, are they shutting it down just because they want to shut it down? Yeah, there's something more beyond that. What things you'll have to think. But I think one of the most critical things, assuming that whether your approach, your insights, your ideas which you're giving are very good, then it is very, very important for you to build the relationship and rapport with the people and understanding the influencing circle and the dynamic organization. Because you might bring in brightest idea, but if you don't work around that dynamics, a good number of times it happens in the organization. And just to add, feeling bad about it, just like, I mean, any person who's bringing good ideas and if those ideas are not getting accepted, one is to feel bad about it. Obviously, any individual will feel bad about it and your energy level will go down and you will feel a certain way. Now, one is to take that approach and your energy level going down and that will lead to a negative spiral. That anyway is not going to enhance your capability and skill. But if I have to grow as a leader, how do I take it in a spirit and saying, ye ho raha hai? How do I go deeper into it? How do I avoid that happening?
That is absolutely correct, Sandeep, and I completely am with you on this. In fact, I've been in the area of introspection for last couple of years on this, and I mean, ऐसा नहीं इसके ऊपर मैंने बहुत काम नहीं किया है, इसके ऊपर मैंने काफी काम भी किया है, and I've been able to come over it a little bit. Usually क्या हो रहा है, as they say, you can't make everyone happy at the same time. Right. Organization में अगर 3-4 power centers हैं, and if you get closer to one, the other two will have issues with you. And this is exactly where I get stuck probably. And
I
because
think, I'll tell you, every organization will have different dynamics and culture, right? Whatever has worked in one organization will not necessarily work with other organizations. I think given the success, what is the best possible thing for you to do if you keep on working on that approach? Because
right.
I mean, every individual also is different, right? If you build a rapport with somebody, that individual is coming across as a certain way. But I think this thing is to see what can I do best. It's like I factor versus they factor.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great point, Sandeep. I may have to start thinking that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, sorry everyone. I just dragged
it's a very good.
It's a very important thing. And everybody is learning from all the questions each one of us is bringing, right?
Right.
So I think more or less we are at the end of our presentation thing. So Kushi, go ahead. Let's. So just to summarize, influencing is about framing, not force. I mean, we cannot force anybody to think alike, and especially your senior stakeholders. Is greater than surprises. Clarity is greater than over-explaining. Being strategic is greater than being task manager. These are some very simple things that I would like to highlight. Go ahead. Go ahead, Kushi. See, in any of our webinars, we recommend you do one thing because, you've attended this webinar, you have some thoughts at this point, you noted down some points. But in terms of learning and being able to get advantage out of it, you have to put it into practice, and you can put it into practice if you set a goal for yourself. So if you can think of one behavior to stop and one behavior to start, pick whatever it is that you want. And if you want, share it with us, but make sure that in the next 1 week, you try it out. Recency is very important. 10 days later, you will not remember what we discussed. So if you want to take something away from here, make sure that you implement it in the next week. And therefore, try building habits on this. Building habits is an important thing. We've all read the book. And I think if you haven't, please do. So right now, write it for yourself, and if you want, please share it with us. One behavior to stop and one behavior to start.
I think when it comes to influencing promoters' mindset, I have found limited success so far. So I think I've got a great insight from the, I would treat it as a journey, and I'll have milestones and how to kind of go on and chipping at it. So I'll working on that approach from now on.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yep. Anybody else? Santosh, can you think of what you want to start using?
Basically, I am into the execution role. So what I am thinking that I move from from execution role to become a strategic kind of speaking language. You told, right? So I'll think about if I am executing something, what are the impact that will be at a bigger level. So that's I want to communicate going forward.
Okay. Mayur, any thoughts?
No, Maneesha, no thoughts.
Okay. Great. So yeah, please go ahead.
One of the things which I would just mention here is, growing leader is commitment to yourself. And I see this as a big lacuna in most of the people. And while, for example, we are conducting these webinars, you people also have spent 90 minutes here. Picking up one thing and staying committed to that, if you do that for 6-12 weeks, it will help you to move in that direction. Otherwise, it's having a discussion for 90 minutes, listening it, but if nothing is retained, nothing they have acted on, then it also shows talks something, right? It also is. So my urge to all of you is to any interaction, any this kind of options or webinars, it is always what's in it for me and what is that I've learned and have I acted on it and have I started implementing on it. This is very, very important. Yeah.
Any questions, any topics you would like to take up? Great. So I think we will call the session to a close now. Thank you all for attending. I hope you are able to take away, something from this webinar. Our webinars are our idea of a subject and throwing a focus light on it. 90 minutes is too short a time for us to do any depth, and these are topics which we could do PhDs on. So there is a to be done. But if you have thought about this and if you have something that you picked up from here and you pay a little more attention, that would be great. My thought would be just that be intentional about influencing and creating your own image and improving your brand for senior leadership as much as you are intentional towards achieving your work goals and doing your work. Because careers won't be built just by doing good work. They also need to be presented, represented, shown to people in the best possible manner. Sandeep, any closing
for
words?
Interrupting, ma'am. If everyone switch on their cameras, like we can take a snapshot quickly.
Please, if you can switch on your cameras, Kushi, to take a snapshot of the session.
So at any point of time, any one of you is needing any help, we are available. Idea is to help people to grow in leadership roles, and that's the best we can do, right? And that is what drives us. So any point of time, feel free to reach out to us.
And we do these webinars every Saturday. So if the topic speaks to you and you'd like to join in, please come and join.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Great. Wish you all the best and have a great weekend. Enjoy and be happy.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.